You are now watching Surveillance. Donate or subscribe for more sick twists.
Thank you so much to all my patrons who made this video possible. Minister, Westy, Sid Kada, Rouge, Splode, you guys are the best. You helped me pour a lot of quality into this video and actually do some real video editing. Because of their support, I'm able to spend a little bit more time making my videos. And if you want to support the channel, head on over to my Patreon and we'll talk. Enjoy. Okay, so the first slot we have is obviously the head slot. This is a very debated topic. A lot of people are arguing over who should get Cursed Vision of Sargeras. It's a really good helm for everybody, and it's just got the most stats. It's obviously going to be our BiS as well. It's about 17 DPS ahead of Forest Prowler's helm, best case scenario. Now, I'll explain that in a bit. So there's a sheet floating around that some people have been looking at that compares Cursed Vision across different classes and shows like who it's best for. And I gotta say, this sheet I helped work on, and it's not exactly totally accurate right now because a lot of people use different parameters for their sims, and we're working on making it more accurate. So I would take that sheet with a grain of salt if you've already seen it floating around, and just understand that in the future it's going to change. But it is accurate when it comes to Ret. It's about 17 DPS better than Forest Prowler's helm. And if you have Forest Prowler's helm, you're going to need to make up the hit somewhere else. Now, the best option for making up the hit is Choker of Endless Nightmares, which might be hard to get, and something more realistic would be something like Dread Boots of the Legion, or just swapping your helm enchant. And if you do that, you're actually going to be further behind Cursed Vision by like 20 to 25 or 27 DPS. So I know that 17 DPS doesn't seem like a lot, but that's like your best case scenario. That's only if you can get Choker of Endless Nightmares to make up the lost hit. If you can't get Choker of Endless Nightmares and you're stuck with Boots or the helm enchant, you're actually going to be further behind, and you're going to be 20 to 27 DPS behind Cursed Vision. But that being said, Forest Prowlers is still very good. It's our second BiS. You're gonna wanna take it as soon as you get a chance to, because it'll probably be very hard to get Cursed Vision. And Illidari Shatterer Helm, which comes from the same boss, the Illidari Council, is really good, but it's not as good because it's got a ton of crit and hit, but you're always gonna go over the hit cap in a 3% hit set. Now, if you were going for a 6% hit set, you might be able to make it work, and in that case, it would probably be your second BiS. Actually, it's going to be your second BiS in a 6% hit set. And tier 6 is just kind of bad. There's only one time that you might use that, and it's if you're going for the 2-piece. And the 2-piece is good, it's like 75 MP5, but we really shouldn't be having any mana issues, and if you are, you probably need to adjust something with your playstyle. So, that being said, obviously the recommendation here is to go for Cursed Vision of Sargeras. Definitely want to put it in your top 3 or top 1 spots in your loot prio. And if you can't get it, Forest Prowlers is a good second choice. Just remember that Forest Prowlers is best when paired with Choker of Endless Nightmares, or Dread Boots of the Legion, or Shadow Moon Destroyer's Drape, to make up that lost hit that you're not going to get. Next slot is very, very simple. All you're going to do is use Pendant of the Perilous. If you end up going with something like Forest Prowler's helm, you're going to need to make up lost hit, and in that scenario, Choker of Endless Nightmares will be BiS for you. It's basically the best hit option that you can get, all of tier 6. So if you ever really need hit outside of the BiS set, Choker of Endless Nightmares is going to be your go-to. However, when the hit is wasted, it's about the same as Pendant of the Perilous. It might be technically better by 1 or 2 DPS, but nobody's going to give you Choker of Endless Nightmares for a 1 or 2 DPS upgrade. So that's pretty much reserved for when you really need the hit, which if you pair it with Forest Prowler's helm, it's actually really good, and that's where you're going to see that 17 DPS difference between Cursed Vision and Forest Prowler. That's going to assume that you have Choker of Endless Nightmares to make up lost hit. Now, There's also this third neck called Choker of Serrated Blades. It comes from Trash and Black Temple, and it's pretty highly contested. I'm pretty sure that Hunters, Fury, and Enhance are going to want this, so it's going to be tough to get, and you might want to consider just skipping it altogether. It's not BiS, but if you end up using Leggings of Divine Retribution, it's pretty close, and it's going to be better in that scenario than Pendant of the Perilous, because Armor Pen scales with itself. So if you end up going with the Armor Pen legs because you can't get bow stitched legs, then you're going to want to stick with the Armor Pen neck if you can get it. However, both of those are not BiS, and you're going to want to just stick with Pendant of the Perilous in 99% of all cases. So shoulder slot is very easy. You're going to want shoulder pads of the Stranger. Obviously, expertise is just so good for us, and occasionally you'll be able to get that expertise to round up to 3 instead of 2, and they'll be even better. Now, if you don't have these, I have good news for you. First of all, you can kill Hydros and then go straight to Vash, so try to convince your guild to do that so that you can get a pair. And if you don't have a pair, you can always go leatherworking and make Swift Strike shoulders, which are second best, or Swift Steel shoulders, which are from blacksmithing, which are good anytime you can use the hit, not so good if you can't use the hit. So all you need is 375 of these professions to be able to make these shoulders. They are very good. Swift Strike is very close to Stranger, just a little bit behind. And you can actually make these shoulders and drop leatherworking or blacksmithing and still equip them even when you don't have the profession anymore. You only need the profession to make the shoulders. So that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go make these Swift Steel shoulders. I'll get Torch of the Damned. I'll drop blacksmithing. I'll go leatherworking. I'll make Swift Strike shoulders. I'll drop leatherworking, and then I'll go enchanting, which is of course our best profession for the rest of the game. So it's pretty straightforward slot. You're going to want shoulder pads of the Stranger. If you don't have them, you can probably make a quick stop at leatherworking on your way to enchanting and make Swift Strike shoulders. Once you've made them, you can drop leatherworking and go enchanting. For cloak slot, Cloak of Darkness is actually our BiS. It's only very slightly better than Razor Scale Battle Cloak. As you can see, the stats are very close. You're going to need an epic gem inside of your Cloak of Darkness if you want it to be actually better than Razor Scale. And these two are very close. Whether you want to spend the money or not for a DPS or two is up to you. Cloak of Darkness is a pattern that comes from Karazhan the Violet Eye, and it is coming out this phase. So if you want to min-max, then I would recommend crafting that. It's not terribly expensive, but it does cost some money. So otherwise, I would definitely still stick with Razor Scale Battle Cloak. And then our hit option is Shadow Moon Destroyer's Drape. Now, a lot of the dual wield classes want this cape for the hit, so it's going to be hard to get, but it is good to pair with something like Forest Prowler's Helm if you need a little bit of extra hit to get you to cap. Now, that being said, it's about the second best hit option we have behind Choker of Endless Nightmares, and it's pretty close. So Choker is obviously preferred, but if you need hit and you can't get Choker, you might want to pick this up instead. That being said, cloak slot is pretty straightforward, and that's all there really is to it. Chest slot is very straightforward as well. All you do is take Midnight Chest or the Lightbringer Tier 6 chest. These are very close. Midnight is going to be just slightly better for a 3% hit set, and Tier 6 is going to be just slightly better for a 6% hit set, and of course has that beautiful armor. So what you're going to do here is, if you have Midnight Chest, you're actually able to swap to the Lower City Glyph of the Outcast Strength and Intellect Helm enchant, which actually gives you a little bit of extra damage compared to the Cenarian Helm enchant. It gives you a little bit more attack power, so if you're able to swap the helm enchants because of the extra hit from Midnight Chest, then that is preferred. However, there's some gear sets where the extra hit from Midnight Chest will be wasted, so it comes down to what your gear looks like, and these are going to be very close. If you're going to go for Tier 6 2-piece because you're having mana issues, you're absolutely going to want to use the chest as your priority. tier 6 item, and your other item can be legs or helm, or even maybe shoulders if you don't have stranger. So I'm going to recommend going with Midnight Chest if you can get your hands on it, but tier 6 is very, very close and basically the same. Bracer slot is very easy. It's just these leatherworking bindings of lightning reflexes. They've got that juicy haste and even a little bit of intellect for you. Now these are bind on equip, so all you need is one leatherworker in your raid that has the pattern. They can make you a pair of these, and as soon as they get the pattern, make sure they get you a pair. So, hands. Definitely want to go with Gloves of the Searing Grip. They are best by a good margin. They come from Alar and Tempest Keep. Obviously, you're going to want to convince your guild that it's still worthwhile killing Alar, because you're going to use these gloves until Sunwell Plateau. They are just that good. Now, if you don't have them, I would go with Grips of Damnation. These come from Reliquary of Souls, which is in Black Temple. And there's also another pair of gloves called Fist of Mukoa, and they come from High Warlord Nagentis, the first boss in Black Temple, and they're only about 2 agility less than the Grips of Damnation, all of their stats being equal. So your Enhancement Shaman is going to want Grips of Damnation, and I would recommend passing to the Enhancement Shaman first, as it is best for them. But ideally, you're going to want Gloves of the Searing Grip, and a close second BiS would be Grips of Damnation. So, belt slot, very, very obvious. Gonna want Belt of 100 Deaths. It's still very, very worth killing Lady Vash, even in Phase 3, for this belt. Everybody wants it, so I would definitely get your hands on this. Once again, this is the biggest upgrade for Ret, and Ret is going to benefit more than any other class. Now, if you don't have Belt of 100 Deaths, your second BiS is going to be Don Alejandro's Money Belt. I know there is a lot of haste belts in tier 6. There's like 6 different belts that you can get in tier 6, but all of them are a little bit worse than Don Alejandro. So if you don't have Belt of 100 Deaths, you're going to want to stick with that. Great news, guys. You finally get to get rid of your leggings. Everybody is going to want boat stitched leggings regardless of your race or how much expertise you have. These are just the best legs you can get, and they are a little bit contested. Survival hunters are going to want them, and enhancement shamans are going to want them, but they are best, and they aren't as hard as other items like Cursed Vision or Shadow Master's boots to get. So if you can't get your hands on them, Leggings of Divine Retribution will be a decent second BiS. They'll be about equal on a low armor boss, but they'll be slightly worse on a high armor boss if paired with the neck Choker of Serrated Blades from Black Temple Trash. Now, that being said, these legs are insane for Fury and Arms, so you're definitely going to want to make sure that they get a pair before you do, as they're not even BiS for you. And that being said, you're always going to want to go for Bow Stitched eventually, and if you can get your hands on them, definitely put them in the top 3 of your loot list, if not higher than that, as they are one of the best upgrades we're going to get all phase. Okay, so boots. Now, a lot of people are going to tell you that you should just go with Dread Boots of the Legion, but they're actually quite a bit worse than the Shadow Master's boots, because we really can't use the hit from Dread Boots of the Legion. Shadow Master's boots come from Mother Shiraz. Everybody wants them, so they're another highly contested item. I would put them in your top 3 or top 4 of your loot prio loot list, because they are very high demand and a good upgrade from Star Striders or War Boots of Obliteration, and quite a bit better than the Dread Boots themselves. Now, if you have something like Forest Prowler's Helm, then Dread Boots are a really good choice, because you'll actually be able to benefit from the hit rating. Dread Boots are not that hard to get. They are very uncontested, and they're second BiS for most of the classes that can use them. so they'll probably be pretty free and a lot easier to get as a hit option than something like Choker of Endless Nightmares or Shadow Moon Destroyer's Drape. So definitely don't sleep on them if you're able to use the hit, but if you're not able to use the hit, if you have Cursed Vision and Midnight Chest, you're obviously going to want Shadow Master's Boots. They are one of the bigger items you're going to get this phase, so definitely put them high up on your prio. Alright, well, we've made it to ring slot, and this is like a very debated slot, and honestly, I don't really see why. So, there are 3 rings that you can use, and they're pretty much all equal. Any other rings are not going to be as good as these 3, but these 3 are about the same. Now, that being said, Band of Devastation pulls ahead when the fight's a little bit longer, and Shapeshifters and Unstoppable Aggressor's ring pull ahead when the fight's a little bit shorter, like under 2 minutes. So, I'm going to go with 1 Band of Devastation and 1 Shapeshifter Signet. I recommend that everybody keeps using Shapeshifter Signet, because whether you're human or Blood Elf, that expertise is still very valuable. It gives you consistency, it prevents you from getting just like unlucky and having a bad kill because you got a couple dodges, and it's like still pretty much equal to every other ring. So I would just stick with the Shapeshifter Signet until Sunwell, and then you can reevaluate when you get some other cool stuff. But pretty much preference, whichever rings you want to use is pretty much your own choice. However, I highly recommend using Shapeshifter Signet in at least one of your slots. Alright, so Trinket slot is pretty obvious. You're going to want Dragonspine Trophy, just the best trinket for a Ret Paladin in the game. 45 to 50 DPS gain over anything else. Your other trinket, you're going to want Bloodlust Brooch or Mark of the Champion. Whichever one of these you use is kind of preference. Bloodlust Brooch will be a little bit better in certain fight lengths, and Mark of the Champion will be better in other fight lengths. And I think that Mark of the Champion is actually better most of the time, but there are certain fight lengths where Bloodlust Brooch will pull ahead a little bit. So they're pretty much preference based. You can switch between them depending on the fight length, and if you don't have a Mark of the Champion, I'm just going to recommend you stick with Bloodlust Brooch. Now, I'm not going to recommend using Darkmoon Card Crusade. The simulator seems to suggest that it's a lot worse than we initially thought, so I'm going to recommend against that, and it'll save you a lot of money to not have to craft it. So for weapon slot, I'm sure you know by now that Torch of the Damned is our best weapon. It is miles ahead of anything else. It's probably the biggest upgrade you're going to get in all of Black Temple and Mount Hyjal. It is about 40 DPS over Cataclysm's Edge, the sword from Archimond. Now, this is mostly due to the slow speed, the favorable stats, strength, crit, and haste over armor penetration. So I'm definitely going to recommend going with Torch of the Damned. It's pretty much uncontested. You should be able to get the first one for pretty much free. And your Libram obviously is going to stay Libram of Avengement from the Heroic Blood Furnace. This is your best Libram for the entire game, and this is never going to change. So it honestly doesn't even really need to be said at this point. That being said, that's all the gear, and now let's take a look at some of the stats. So here's the entire set, here's what it looks like all put together, and of course you can find a link for this set in the description along with all the other sets. Pretty straightforward. A lot of these items are still from Phase 2, so you're going to want to convince your guild to keep going back to Phase 2 and kill some of those easier bosses with the best loot. There's only a few upgrades in Phase 3 that we're going to pick up, and the most high demand ones are going to be Cursed Vision, Shadow Master's Boots, and Bow Stitched Leggings. Those are the ones you're going to want to put at the highest prio on your loot list, because those are not only highly contested, but they're also the more valuable upgrades that we can get. So, here is going to be your 6% hit best BiS set. Now, This is going to be hard to get Choker of Endless Nightmares and Shadow Moon Destroyer's Drape to acquire 6% hit, so you might end up having to use Dread Boots of the Legion, but this is going to be the highest DPS possible for a 6% set, using the Helm Enchant, the Neck, and the Cape to get that extra 3% hit. It's pretty straightforward. That's the only changes to the set outside of the tier 6 chest. Now, why is there a tier 6 chest here? Because when you have a 6% hit set, you actually cannot benefit from the extra hit that Midnight chest gives, and this will put tier 6 chest a little bit above it in terms of overall DPS. I'm going to include Phase 4 BiS in this video because there really is not much that we upgrade. It's really just your Cloak and your Trinket. You're going to upgrade your Cloak with the Cloak of Fiends. This comes from the timed event chest, which means that you have to kill the first 4 bosses in Zul'Aman in the first 30 to 40 minutes. I can't exactly remember how long it is, but you're going to need a decent raid to be able to get to that time chest in time to get this Cloak. That's the only place you'll be able to get it. It doesn't drop from any of the bosses. Now your Trinket, Berserker's Call, is very, very good. It's going to be an upgrade over Bloodlust Baruch or Mark of the Champion, and that comes from the last boss of Zul'Aman, which is Zul'Jin, of course. There's also a neck in Phase 4 called the Savage's Choker, which is haste and attack power. Now, I've taken a deep look at this neck on the sim, and I gotta say, it is not great. It is about the same as Pendant of the Perilous, give or take a couple DPS. So if you really want to use it over Pendant of the Perilous, you're free to do so. It's mostly preference. It'll be a little bit better on longer fights and a little bit worse on shorter fights. It doesn't have a whole lot of stats. It's really just a little bit of haste and some attack power, but it is about on par with Pendant of the Perilous. So if you want to use it, go ahead. Here is the entire set all put together for Phase 4 BiS, 3% hit. As you can see, all we are replacing is the Cloak and the Trinket. Once again, you can find the link for these sets in the description. For Phase 4, 6% hit set, here is going to be your BiS list. You're going to have to swap from using the Shadow Moon Destroyer's Drape because you want to use the Haste Cloak, Cloak of Fiends, so you're going to end up using Dread Boots of the Legion for hit instead. You're going to use Choker, Dread Boots, and the Helm Enchant to get that extra 3% hit out of this set. If you don't have a Boomkin, this will be your optimal gearing scenario. Now once again, for a 6% hit set, you're going to want to use Tier 6 chest over Midnight. So, thank you so much guys for watching and sticking with me this far. I sincerely hope that you appreciate the higher production value I poured into this video. It took a lot longer to make than most of my videos usually do, and hopefully I can get that down to a better science in the future. If you want to support the channel, there's ways to down in the description. I hope you guys do amazing damage in Phase 3. I hope you get the best loot. I hope you have a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoy what is one of my favorite raids ever since I was a little kid. I think that Black Temple is super cinematic. I think it's a lot of fun. It's got so much meat, so much lore behind it that I'm really happy to dive back in. And I hope you guys are just as happy as I am. So if you want to support what I do, check out the links in the description, and good luck. Thank you for watching.
This show was brought to you by Light Club, where monkeys go to church.